No, I don't think that Melvin Toma is part of the plot, actually. I think that Melvin Toma, first of all, I don't know Melvin Toma. I've never met this guy. I got to know Melvin Toma through this story, this investigation. I've never met him personally. I've never talked to him. I've never corresponded any messages with him. I've never met him anywhere.
But you have no reason to doubt his credibility.
But I don't have any reason to doubt his credibility for a number of reasons, primarily because his evidence is pegged to his amnesty, to his pardon. So he must be in a very critical situation not to give false testimony, because he knows, and probably he will be warned numerously by his lawyers, by his counsels, that this situation is very critical.
An honest account of the hearsay.
And secondly, yes, I think Melvin Toma is honest insofar as what he has evidenced on how he has lived this story, this evil story. And on the other hand, of course, he was being misguided by some pseudo friends of his who tried to deviate the investigators' attention to somebody who was not involved whatsoever in this murder. So my opinion from outside is that I don't believe that Melvin Toma, insofar as I am concerned, I am pretty sure that he never questioned the fact, for example, that was being told to him that I had an overdose. Because who says, who would go and say, listen, I know that Christian Peregrine had an overdose. Why should somebody question that? But I know for sure that this didn't happen, that it was part of the plot, and that this could be checked out by seeing all medical records I have in any hospital, locally, abroad, etc., and checking this out and seeing whether it is a fact or part of the lies which were brewed up in order to form this story.
So it's not true that you were ever hospitalized?
No, of course not. And what I would like to say about this, Christian, is that I don't want to do the research myself. I will grant my consent, I will give my consent to anybody who's interested, being it Repubblica, being the civil society network, yourself as a journalist, lawyers of the Caruana Galizia family, the family themselves, the sons of Daphne Caruana Galizia, in order to check this out on my behalf. I'm 100% sure. That this never happened. I never abused of any drug in my life. I never abused of any pills in my life. I never suffered any overdose in my life. I was never admitted to hospital in my life.
Do you have any relationship or have you ever had any form of relationship with any of the Georgios?
No.
Nothing, no idea who they are?
No, of course I know who they are because I practiced criminal law. I was a lawyer. I met with a number of people who were either in this sector or else had criminal proceedings against them. That was my bread and butter.
But them specifically, you would have met them? You would have...
I know who they are. I saw them, yes, of course.
Your number was the only number in the Georgios' burner phone. How do you explain that?
I don't believe that this is the truth. I don't believe that my number was in a burner phone. A burner phone is used by criminals in order to correspond between each other and then disposing of the phone, not to leave any audit, any track record of the messages of the. I have never had a burner phone in my life. I never needed a second number in my life. I always had the same phone number. I've never changed it. I've never discussed anything on a burner phone. So,
but you don't believe that in the burner phone there was your number, or do you believe it was there and it was used to frame you?
no. I don't believe it was there.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe it was there. And the reason for this is, as you know, the investigating officers had asked me some questions some months ago. They had sent for me at the police.
In November, December.
Yes, exactly, in December, I believe. I was still a minister at the time.
Before you suspended yourself.
Exactly, that week,
Yeah.
the same week. And the inspectors, both Keith Arno and Inspector Zara, had asked me a number of questions. They had told me, listen, I mean, this is clearly a routine check, kind of. We have to do it, but doesn't mean that we are believing what is being stated. And the issue of the burner phone never cropped up. So I never was asked whether why my number could have been in one of the burner phones. And using that kind of logic, I exclude the possibility that through investigations, first of all, I know that for sure I never used this burner phone, or I had in my possession a burner phone. And secondly, I would presume that had this been the case and Europol or Interpol had found my number, this question would have been asked to me in the investigation process.
So has your phone ever been examined to see if there were
Never.
calls done by the Georgios?
Never.
And are you comfortable with having it examined?
I've never changed my phone. It's been the same phone for
No, because before you said when it comes
for years, ages.
before you said when it comes to your medical records, you're happy to
Yes, of course.
You do the
Sure.
same when it comes to
Yes, of course. If the police are going to tell me, listen, Chris, we need your phone, I would give them my phone, for sure. I am not privileged anymore with confidential documents from cabinet. My phone I use for my personal use, and I have no problem at all in exhibiting or in giving my phone to the police for their research. I've never lost my phone, changed my phone, bought a new phone, never.
So again, this picture is painted of you being framed by, you said the letter, a number of people, including people very close to you. I think the impression out there, because this letter was deemed to have been passed on from Keith Schembri to the doctor to Jürgen Fenech, the impression is that it was Keith Schembri and maybe those around him who have an interest in framing you. Do you make that connection yourself, or do you hold back from making that connection?
No, I hold back from making that connection because I don't have the proof to substantiate that.
It's not enough proof.
Of course not. There is not enough proof because Keith Schembri has repeatedly denied being the author of the letter.
Even to you personally, have you ever spoken to him about it?
I don't recall ever speaking to him after this incident. But yes, I have received a number of messages through a number of people telling me that Keith has repeatedly denied very strongly being the author of that letter. And also because the letter was tampered with. When I remember when this letter was found in the file, in the dossier, what they call proċess tal-pulizija, during this late night cabinet meeting, I was not present because I was suspended at the time. I had suspended myself. I had asked the Prime Minister to accept my suspension until this issue clears out. And I remember in the early morning of the next day, I was still at home. I had some meetings around midday, and somebody, not one, a number of colleagues, cabinet members, had phoned me. And they had told me, listen, Chris, you know what happened? You know, I didn't know about this letter. I never knew about this letter. And they told me, listen, we found this letter. This letter was trying to incriminate our colleague, you, with something which is horrible, with a murder. And I was shocked. I remember my reaction was, how, who, why are they doing this to me? With hindsight, the plot, I believe, chose the ideal, most vulnerable person in order to try and deviate the investigation. Why? Because Chris Cardona was a lawyer. He worked and practiced in criminal law, so the contacts with the clients are there. Because, of course, I had a number of court cases, libel cases with Daphne. Because I was also targeted by Daphne a number of times. And that makes my vulnerability to a potential suspect much higher than, for example, another minister who was never mentioned by Daphne. So all these elements, you know, I had to try and see why they had chosen, or he or she had chosen me as the victim of this frame-up.
The why is clear, right, for the things that you're mentioning. The who,
I cannot say, because when I asked the police for forensic analysis of this letter, the reply I had was that letter was tempered. So they couldn't extract any information, being finger analysis, DNA, prints, etc. Subsequently, I got to know that this letter was sent for forensic analysis abroad. I believe it was sent to the Netherlands, to one of the labs there, forensic labs. But yet, till now, I don't have any information about the results.
I just want to ask you this question because I think like one of the you're out of politics now. Well, you're still the deputy leader of the Labour Party, but you're out of the front line sort of cabinet politics, etc. And your legacy, besides now this mention of your name in this case, there's that case of the brothel that continues to sort of haunt in a way your I don't know if it's fair to say credibility, but kind of it's always there lingering still, did he, didn't he, did he lie, did he, and we don't have closure on it today.
And you cannot have closure on it.
But presumably we could, no, with the TAP files, as if those were
the TAP files are released. The TAP files are within the authority of the law courts, and I believe there has been an application. I don't know whether
by the public inquiry.
Yes, exactly, by the public inquiry, in order to have them inserted in the process. I have no problem to that.
If you I don't know if you have the right to do this, but if you did, would you say, please publish these now? Let's get out of this completely, for once.
I never objected to that. My only objection was brought up by the lawyers who had stated that this is going to create a precedent in civil proceedings.
Today, do you still care about that?
I don't really care. I don't really care about anything in the past, because I mean, what I think is that probably had I passed through the same historical kind of issues, I probably wouldn't have instituted court cases or libels or guarantees. I don't know. I don't know how you can react. I mean, with hindsight, people are much more clever, and I mean, sitting in an armchair and trying
today you
to
don't say-
correct history. You know, I mean, that is very easy to do. You need to be in that situation at the particular time in order to see how you have to react.
But today you don't say, magistrate who has these top files, please publish them for my sake.
I don't think I have that authority to do that.